One of the viewers of at least one of my other videos had left me a comment, and within her comment she asked me about my take on how to prepare for a job interview while you're undergoing the transition. In her particular case, if I remember correctly, I believe she said that she's been growing out her hair for approximately 9 months. What do we do when we've got partially grown out hair and we need to go to something important like a job interview? And so we're going to be talking about that here, and if that's the reason why you clicked on this video, the same information kind of applies also to many important events that we may need to go to, although we may choose a different way of dealing with each type of event, but still there are occasions within our lives where perhaps showing up with it partly grown out may or may not be the thing to do. So we're going to be looking at those aspects coming right up. While we will spend most of this video talking about the different ways that we can fix ourselves, so the visual appearance, so to speak, of how we present ourselves for something like a job interview, I want to start first by addressing something that may be even more important to anything we could even in fact do to how we put ourselves together in our outward presentation. And what is that thing? It is self-confidence. And I don't mean a plastered on arrogance where we're sort of faking it, or that we actually do have an inflated sense of self, because people can read through that and they don't like it. It's really a turnoff. But a lot of us feel insecure, or we may even just be nervous about the job interview itself. And I believe that people doing the interviewing can understand that to a point. But what we don't want to have happen is when we basically are dealing with some point of view within our mind to where we're just feeling kind of nervous about how we're coming across, or if this person is going to see our value, or that we can bring something to the table within the aspect of the job that we are in fact interviewing for. So let's take a look, first of all, at our self-confidence and how that comes across to really anybody, but in this case it would be the person conducting the interview with us. I would say the most important thing to walking into really any situation is how confident we are in our own skin and standing in our own shoes. How well do we know ourselves? How confident do we feel within ourselves and what we know about ourselves to be true within what we know our strengths actually are? Now, it's natural that pretty much all of us probably have some things that we know are not our strong points, and that's fine. We're human. Nobody is 100% perfect, and there is really no such thing as 100% perfect, because what's 100% perfect to one person is not going to be the same ideals that someone else has, and there might be a third perspective and a fourth. So we can't really please 100% of all of the people 100% of the time. So what are we really talking about? We're talking about just having a solid understanding of what our strengths are and feeling confident within ourselves, within the knowledge of what we know our attributes to be. And concerning a job interview, well, ideally we would be interviewing for a position that we know that we can bring a lot of strong attributes and qualifications to the job itself. When we can walk in the door feeling confident within the abilities that we have, that we know would serve that job position and that company that is offering that job position, then we're going to be walking in with an air of confidence about ourselves, at least within that area. And while we may realize that we do have what we might consider to be some shortcomings of whatever they are, we need to not be thinking about those things in preparation for our job interview and when we walk in the door and meet and greet the person doing the interview, and then when we sit down as that interview does take place. If we are feeling not confident about something about ourselves, that is going to come across in some kind of a way. It may be misunderstood though by the person that is detecting that there's something, something is a little bit off. They're not necessarily a mind reader though, and so they may not exactly pick up on exactly what is going on for us, and they may misread it. It may come across like there's something inauthentic about ourselves, or it may come across to them, they may just get a sense like, I don't know if this person could really do this job. I'm just not sure that they really have the capabilities to do it. And that may not even be true. You may be perfectly qualified. You may be an awesome asset to that company for that position. But if you're feeling not confident about something about yourself, and in this case, it could be your appearance that you're most concerned about, but it could come across to them as, yeah, I'm just not sure this person is capable of doing the job. Or I feel like this person could be maybe hiding something or maybe misrepresenting something. And those may not be the case at all, but we don't know how the person just picking up on there being something in the vibration of your energy. I know this sounds a little esoteric and a little mumbo jumbo, but there are actually scientific facts backing up this kind of thing. When we are watching someone else or conversing someone else, the neurons in our mind and our brain actually fire in the same exact order as what theirs are when they're doing the action or having the conversation. So we may not, unless we develop some of our intuitive skills, which many of us have blocked off to large degrees. But even if they are largely blocked off, we sometimes will sense like something's just not right. Like we just get a feeling of something. And because we are blocked off to a large degree, we may not catch on to it 100% accurately, but it might just still be in the field that there's just something not right. I kind of think this person is just maybe misrepresenting something, or maybe this person isn't confident for the job and I don't think that they can do it. Like there's just, they might not even have that much dialogue about it. So anyway, my point is that we want to make sure that what we're thinking about most in our preparations for the job interview, and this might start days or weeks in advance of the job interview, really be working with yourself, paying attention to what is going on in your mind. If you start to catch yourself a lot that your mind has gone on to your insecurities, then don't be mad at yourself. The brain just does that. We have a tendency to do that. Just realize, okay, that's where my mind went again. And you know, that, yes, I have those insecurities about myself, but the fact of the matter is that I could bring this and this and this and this quality and abilities to this job and to this company, and I would be a real asset. And again, I'm not saying to come from an overinflated point of view, like, oh, I'm so good, I would be able to do this, that, and the other thing for the job, like I'm the best, blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking about that, because that's not even real. That's a facade that someone who is portraying those kind of qualities even knows underneath it all that they feel inadequate. So what I'm really talking about is genuinely catching your negative thoughts about yourself, stopping them whenever you catch them, and then shift into thinking about shining the light on what your strengths and attributes actually are. Okay? So if you walk in very confident about what your capabilities are, people are going to feel that, and they're going to believe this person can do this job. This person just, again, they may not think all the words, but you're going to be conveying an energy about you because that energy is really there. And science, once again, has confirmed and continues to confirm that we are all interconnected in this energy field. And we may not have conscious awareness of everything that's going on with another person, but we do pick up on it in subtle ways. And it inspires us to take action one way or another in response, okay? So work on, first of all, just being as confident as you can be about what your capabilities are within that job position, within your field of expertise, and that you could be an incredible asset for this company. That is first and foremost. Now, let's go in and talk about key different points about putting ourselves together and how our outward appearance may also affect people, interviewers, on a subconscious level, and perhaps even in their notable thoughts as well. That brings us into the next section, It's almost another category. The first one not really being of our appearance, but how we walk in with that air of confidence or lack of it does affect how we appear to people. Okay, so that was number one, tip one. Now let's look at tip two. How are we going to put ourselves together? So if obviously we know enough to know, most of us with even half of any common sense, realize that if we walk in to an office or some type of job interview, especially if it's sort of a more respectable type of job, it's going to paint a picture how we walk in about ourselves. Okay, now I have seen some images, some fill clips of women with their hair partially grown out, so they have, you know, varying degrees of gray and then varying degrees of color left over. And I've seen them in a variety of different ways. Some of them dressed really nice, and you can tell that they're really professional. And you can tell that they have a confidence about themselves, about their place in life, and about how they look. They're rocking it. I do not think that that in general is causing them any problems. Again, so if you walk in with enough confidence and you're just direct and all of that, you probably could get away with walking in with your transition partially grown out and still get the job. However, in considering this for the last week or so, since I read the comment below my video, I've come to also think, well, you know, while that may be true, and while I do think it could be true, is it maybe the best strategy? And I'm not sure. Because, again, if you take an action, so there's a couple aspects within this. If you take an action and you're not really confident in it, let's say you think you're confident, let's say you think, yeah, I heard this girl on this video talk about just walking in there with confidence and it's probably not going to matter if my hair is partially grown out. But if you don't 100% really own that inside of yourself, then it might matter. And then you might be left with like, well, maybe I should have done something about my hair. And even if you do walk in with complete congruent confidence, like there's no hesitations, there's no discrepancies really within the strength of how you feel about it, do we 100% know that it won't make a difference? Because visual presentation also means different things to different people. And that's another thing to understand about just people in general, is that we've all taken on filters within how we see things, within how we hear things, within how we think about things, within how we feel about things. And these filters were largely put into play in our childhood, and some of them have been put into play in a little bit later in life, just depending on who we've been around a lot of the time and how we've interacted with those people, how we've been treated by those people. And so a lot of times we really start looking at different things through these filters and we don't even know that we are doing it. And so this is where, even if you're walking in very confidently, if you've got partially grown out hair, I started to realize after I really thought more about this, they could still perceive that maybe you're just this unkept person that doesn't really care about how you look. Maybe you don't have attention to detail, because if you did, would you really let your hair look like that? You know, while growing out our gray hair is becoming more of a movement and women are stepping into their own and saying, hey, no, I'm not going to buy into this BS that we've been fed and that we've bought into, but we've all to some degree bought into it, at least for the duration that we have. While that is growing in number, it's still not the majority. And so we've got to be realistic about that too. And so would I suggest that you dye your hair for a job interview? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it. For me, I would choose a different way. And at the same time, you have to make the decision that feels best to you within whatever your circumstances are. There are many ways to disguise the line of demarcation. For me, I believe it would be a choice about disguising it in a way that looks really good, so that I could put my image together in a way that looks very polished. So I do believe that doing one of these techniques is probably a way to at least hedge your bets that if you don't get the job, it's not because you walked in with your hair partially grown out and someone invented a story about what that means, about your capabilities as an employee and your capabilities of how you would actually execute the job position. Because I feel that leaving people with a question like that based on their own previous preconceived ideas is not necessarily in your favor. So within that, I believe my choice would be, and I just feel that this would be my strongest recommendation for anyone out there. But again, you have to really sit with this and really be honest with yourself about what you would feel the most confident doing, and then act in line with that, because that's going to give you the best results. If you're second guessing yourself based on what other people's opinions are, but you're not really in alignment with yourself, you don't feel 100% congruent with yourself, there's something out of line, but you're just not really looking at it because you're trying to buy into what someone else has said, and you're trying to kind of, maybe you think that they're right to a point, and so you're trying to be that, at least in my experience, backfires on me pretty much every single time. So that would be something that I would really recommend, just really being clear within yourself of what really is the best thing for you, what really causes you or helps you to feel very confident about how you look when you are walking in the door. All right, so that's like a fundamental. And then where we're going to take the different ways of disguising the line of demarcation, I feel it comes after all of that. Because if you're not walking in feeling confident about your abilities to do that job, then you may really not get the job, unless everyone else who interviewed for it just came across less confident than you did. Then you might get the job. The other thing is that yes, while our appearance can give different people different subconscious opinions, that then they're running their filters unbeknownst to them or you, that could cause you to lose the job if you've walked in such a way that triggers something in them that again is telling them this person is not really capable to do this job to the best of the ability that we want for this company. So again, you choosing however you're going to handle this, however you're going to put yourself together, do what really makes you feel strong and in alignment, because then that supports you walking in the door confident, not only about your abilities to do the job and that you would be an asset to the company, but also about the appearance in which you are walking in looking like. Because if you feel confident about the way you appear, then your chances of that landing to where that other person is now triggered into thinking that this person has attention to detail, this person takes care of things in a way that really works. These are the kind of things you want them to be thinking about you, okay? But that stems mainly from the vibe, your confidence within which you are walking in. So, of the options of how to put yourself together, be sure you're confident about the one you choose. And so I recommend spending a little time in advance of the interview, maybe practice one or more of the techniques and see what it's really like to walk in the shoes within one of those techniques already being done on your head. Do it. Disguise the line of demarcation in one of the ways we're going to talk about, and then go around for the day like that, or maybe even a few days like that. And if there's still something about it that doesn't feel 100% right, or you're just not sure, maybe try one of the other techniques and then see how that feels, okay? Now let's briefly discuss what some of the techniques might be. One of the common ways of going about disguising the line of demarcation is simply to, with some sort of non-staining treatment, cover up the grow out, so the gray part, to blend more with the dyed part. And one common way to do this is root touch-up spray, and there are different kinds, so you can look that up and experiment. I would do some research and make sure you're getting one that other people going through the transition have been happy with, both in terms of coverage, that it did a good job covering, and that it didn't stain their hair, that it came right back out. Another way is eyeshadow. I've done a video on that. You can take eyeshadow, or in my case, an eyebrow pen, like I don't know, coloring in kit, but it's basically the same type of formulation of eyeshadow, but I liked the coloring that they gave me. It took me about 10 minutes with a tiny brush. If I'd had a larger brush, it would have been even quicker. It took about 10 minutes to cover this in and make it look like it was blended pretty well. I think if I would have walked in like that to an occasion or a job interview, I don't think anyone really would have noticed anything going on there. So that's an option if that's something that you're comfortable with. Another idea is to take this dry type of shampoo. I learned this from Monique Parent, and then I actually recently filmed myself doing it, although truthfully when I did it just in my bathroom mirror where I can always see better than what I'm doing in my iPad, it did look a lot better when I did it in my mirror. It was more smooth and it was easier to get coverage. When I tried doing it in my iPad to make a film to show you guys, I was missing my hair even though it looked like I was it looked like I was aiming in the right spot, and then I wasn't. And then when I did get it on there was a lot of weird little clump looking things, so it kind of didn't really look the best. But when I did it just in the mirror, it looked really good. And then the idea behind that one is that you take the parts that are the whitest and then you spray from there and make it look like it's just grown out more, and then it looks really pretty. Another thing, and I personally think this really might be the best way to go, is simply to get a good wig. And by a good wig, I don't necessarily mean it has to be very expensive at all. They do have some really nice looking wigs, even down in the $40 and $50 range. And I've actually seen some that look really nice that are even less than that, in the $30 range. And you have lace front wigs, which take a little more experience to put on, but you've also got just slip-on wigs, and if you get the right kind of styles, they can not only look professional or fun, or depending on what the occasion is, but they also can look pretty natural depending on what the style is. If you get a one-length bob and it's just a slip-on wig, that's probably not going to look natural. So you'd want to maybe get something with a little bit of wisps or a little bit of bangs if you want to get a slip-on style of wig. I actually was working with a bookkeeper once. She was coming every week to the long hair salon I was working at for many years, and I would work with her each week when she would come. She had short hair, it was kind of spiky, cute style. All of a sudden she started coming wearing a wig, and I think the only reason that I knew it was a wig was because it was a bit longer, and it was really, there's no way that her short hair would have grown out to that length from one week to the next. And every week when she would come, she would be wearing this wig. And after about a year or so, all of a sudden she came and she was not wearing the wig, and her own hair had grown out into a bob about down to here, and she had it curled under. It looked really nice. So what she did was she utilized a wig to avoid a lot of the really awkward looking stages that trying to grow out a short layered haircut can end up looking like as you're growing it past some of these length areas in here. And she hid all of that under a wig. There have been women who have done their whole transition because of their jobs under a wig. For that, I really recommend a slip-on kind because you won't be taking very much time to do your hair. Even the kids now are wearing a lot of wigs rather than coloring their own hair from this color to that color. Some of them still do, but a lot of kids now are taking advantage of the benefits of a wig. Because again, you can get a wig that's in a great professional style for going to work and interview, then maybe going to work if you want to for a while longer, just to kind of ease into your new position there. And then you can ditch it one day and let everybody see your transitioned hair out by then, because they're going to know you already. They're going to know that you're great at your job, and it'll probably be completely fine to do that. And then you can also have different wigs for different occasions, which I personally feel going through the transition, I'm fine going around like this most of the time. I don't care. But yeah, I probably would maybe feel a little awkward for certain types of occasions, and I don't feel that anybody should be made wrong for that. I don't feel that anyone should feel or to be made to feel or have an opinion that it's okay to make someone else feel that you or I should be 100% confident 100% of the time going around with the hair mid-transition in all its various stages. There really could be occasions where we just don't really feel comfortable getting all the looks. We don't want to bother with it. We don't want to have to explain. Maybe we just want to look polished ourselves for once because it's been a while as we've been growing this out at a half an inch on average per month. This is going to take a while to look really good. It probably took a while for Annika von Holt to go from brown hair to the beautiful hair she has now, and it didn't look good in between all of that time. It just doesn't. And while we may be fine with it running around to the store or going around in front of our friends most of the time, there might really just be times we just don't want to look like that, and that is okay. It has to be okay, and we have to make other people feel okay. I mean, we don't have to, but it's really rude, in my opinion, to not. And so just consider these ideas. Another way to go about it, but this particular method isn't, I wouldn't really recommend it for a job interview, but you could use it in other applications. A friend of mine is a nurse, and she did this in her nursing job. So certain jobs you could get away with this particular look, but I don't think even interviewing for the nurse job would maybe be a good idea for this one, but it could help you in the transition in a job depending on what the job is and if this would fit. She had one of those wide headbands. I showed one of these wide headbands in one of my previous videos, actually, as a way of hiding the line of demarcation. It just looks like you have a headband on, and then your hair with the dye is coming out, the back portion, and so it gives the impression that your hair is just still this color all the way through. And so what she did was, the first many months of her growing her hair out transition, she wore this wide headband, and then it just looked like her brown hair was coming out the back of it. When her hair got long enough to where the white came back to about here, she started wrapping it in a high bun, and then she found this little scrunchie. It literally was one of these round scrunchies, but it had white hair that came off it all around it. So she put that around the bun, and now the white from this, it's like fake white hair, but it was, the coloring was good. It looked really good with her own color. It now looks like she just has 100% solid white hair with the way she's now going to work, even though she doesn't and she's still in the transition. So that could be an option for you too, if you can put your hair up, if that type of option even works for you. One YouTuber, her name is Elizabeth Alfonso. She's really funny at times, but you can tell her funnier videos take quite a bit of construction and a crew and planning and all kinds of stuff going into it. But she actually made a video after she was done with her transition, and she basically went through the whole thing with a wig. And because she was in the entertainment industry and she's always going around interviewing people, she couldn't really walk around with the transitioning hair. I'll put the link below. It's hysterical if you haven't seen it. She has another video where her significant other and some of these other funny people went on a vacation to Greece, I think it was, and they were on a boat, and that is extremely hilarious too. I mean, if you want to get a good laugh ever, like, you've just got to at least watch these two videos by her. But anyway, so there you have it. Those are my thoughts and my ideas of what, of just the things that I know of that you could utilize in order to look nice and feel confident walking into a job interview. Let me know your comments below. Let me know if you've done any of these things, or if you have any different ideas that I'm still unaware of that could be helpful, because other people are reading here and it can help someone else maybe get yet another idea of how they can effectively and confidently walk into a job interview while still being in the process of a growing out their gray hair transition, so that we can all be successful within our transitions, as well as the things we need to do in our lives where going around half and half just isn't maybe going to work. All right, if you liked this at all, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe and click the bell if you'd like to be kept up to date with more of my video releases. I look forward to seeing you again here soon.